Again, thank you to the City of Anderson. Thank you for Chuck at Star Photo for doing all this. Thanks for the library. Thanks to everybody who had anything to do with this. A little bit about me. I always find it funny because I work at Star Photo, yet I have probably 1 or 2 people a week who come in and assume that I know nothing about photography, I know nothing about cameras. I've had people come up to me and say, I don't want to ask you about this, I want to ask somebody else. So just to kind of prove to you guys that I know what I'm talking about, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a recent graduate. I'm a Yorktown native. I'm a Muncie native. I graduated from Yorktown. I just graduated from Ball State in December. While I was at Ball State, I worked for Strategic Communications, which is like the marketing department. I worked for the College of Communication and Information Media. I worked for the Ball State Daily News. And then I was an intern for the Muncie Star Press for a little while. So my father was also a professional photographer, worked at Ball State for 30 years. So I've more or less had a camera in my hand since I was about 8 years old. So I tell you guys this just because I want you to know that I know what it takes to make a good photograph. And part of what I want to do today is to take some of the things I've learned and some of the things I've been taught and to teach them to you guys so that you could use them to elevate your Insta. The things we're going to talk about today is that we're going to talk about basic photo composition. We're going to talk about how to make a photo great. We're going to talk about app usage so that you can use Instagram better and more effectively. And then we're going to talk about how to connect to other people in Instagram, because as we'll talk about here in a second, Instagram is a huge network. And then we're going to talk about kind of taking your photos to the next level, either by printing them via cool things or even accessories and other apps that you could use. So also a lot of the things we're going to talk about today, I know this is technically like a business. It's supposed to be for business uses, and everything you're going to learn today could absolutely be used for a business, but it could also be used in your personal account. So I don't want you guys to go into this thinking, oh, well, we're going to talk about, how to make a pretty picture, how's that going to help me in my business? It's absolutely going to help you in your business, because a good photograph is a good photograph no matter what the purpose is. So the first question we're going to ask is, why Instagram? What makes Instagram such a valuable tool? Well, as you can see from these numbers, there's a lot of activity on Instagram. The numbers that I found the most interesting is that 27% of the US population is on Instagram. That is a huge number of people. So even if you could reach even if you could reach a percent of those people, that's thousands of people that you could be opening up to either your personal or business account. That's an insane number of people. And if you know, and it's fairly simple to do if you just simply know how to connect and you know how to speak with people in the Instagram lingo. So it's an invaluable resource, and I really think that a lot of people would benefit from it, like I said, both personally and business-wise. There's a lot of confusion and a lot of not people really sure what the difference between Instagram and Twitter is, because they are kind of similar and they can be similar. I had an associate dean at Ball State say it, and I thought it was super simple how she said it, is that with Instagram, you can be on Instagram. With Twitter, you have to be in Twitter. I think that we had a couple months ago, we had a Twitter one of these, and the woman had said that you need to tweet 10 to 20 times a day and able to maintain an active social media presence on Twitter. Instagram is not like that at all. With Instagram, you can be much more passive. You can only post 2 or 3 times a day and still get quite a bit of traction if you know how to connect to people. They are similar in the fact that there is you have an account and you follow people and people follow you. That's part similar, but the rest of it is kind of going to vary a lot, mostly because you can be more passive with it. But Instagram is visual based, so you are going to be viewing photos instead of words. Another great thing that I think Instagram has over Twitter is that with Twitter, you have a character limit. You only can do 140 characters. Instagram, there is no Twitter. There is no limit for your caption. You can write a novel in the caption if you want to. And I've seen some people do it. They'll make like official statements and press releases all with Instagram. I'm not saying you should do that, but I'm just saying that it's an option. The one thing that I do think that Twitter has over Instagram is that with Instagram, you cannot link to another site via the comment section or via your caption. So I do think it is harder to draw people from Instagram to another site, whereas Twitter, that's very easy. You can just attach a link to the bottom and it's going to take you someplace. With Instagram, you kind of have to jump through a few hoops, and that's not ideal, but it just kind of happens. So Instagram is mostly my head is really big on there. Instagram is mostly a phone-based app. So pretty much it's available for both iOS, Windows, Android, anything that you could want. There is a PC-based website. However, the PC-based website does not work the same way that your phone app will. If you want to post pictures, you can only do that through your phone app. The PC-based version, if you just use like Firefox or Chrome or whatever, it's basically in a view-only mode. You can only follow, unfollow, view, comment. You cannot actually post photos. That being said, we are going to focus on the app today, the app on your phone, just because it does have full functionality. I will say that a lot of times, there are ways you can get photos from your desktop onto Instagram, though. People will have, like you'll see photos on Instagram that'll be really great, and you'll feel bad because you're like, there's no way that I could take that actual photo with my phone. Well, that's because it wasn't taken with a phone. It was taken by a professional photographer with a DSLR and a creative team behind them. All the photos that we're talking about, all the photos that I'm taking and using as examples, were all taken with my phone. So I just want you guys to know that it's definitely possible to take great photos with your phone, and you don't necessarily need a $3,000 digital camera like the professionals have. And this actually came in yesterday, and I thought this was perfect. This is the May issue of O Magazine, and on the back there is an ad for an iPhone, and it's a very nice, very lovely photo that was actually shot on an iPhone. So these are magazine quality photos that are being taken with phones. And I just want you guys to know that it's definitely possible to take great pictures even without a DSLR. There are a few pictures in here we'll look at that were taken with a DSLR, like a real digital camera, but I'll talk about those when we get there. So we're going to start with kind of Instagram 101. We're going to talk about the basics. We're going to look at our screen. We're going to talk about how to upload, menus, and then how to connect. And I apologize if you guys are kind of already aware of these. I just kind of wanted to start from scratch so that you could, okay. So this is our screen. This is what, whenever you log into Instagram, this is going to be the first thing that you see. This is your feed. And how the feed works is that there will be the name of the user here, and then this big thing here is the photograph. With the photograph, it's going to appear like in a list form, so you will see the username, photo, and it'll be the people that you are following that posting these photos, and then that'll be the order that you see them in. Because Instagram used to be purely chronological, so the newest photo is going to be at the top, and then they are going to go down in order from there. They recently released an algorithm, or launched an algorithm that's going to change the way people see photos, that you will actually see your photos. Instagram will basically track what you like to see and then make recommendations on what it thinks you want to see by what order it puts them in. And Twitter has been like that for a while, and there's kind of some mixed reactions. Some people like it, some people don't. I personally have not seen a change in my feed, so I wouldn't really read too much into it. I just wanted to let you guys know that that was a recent change that had happened. I gotta turn that off. So this is the main screen. We have the photograph, and then this is the like button. So if you find a photo and you're like, hey, I kind of think that's pretty, you can tap on the little heart, or you can double tap on the photo itself. You can, and then this is how you leave a comment, and this is how you forward it, which we'll talk about more here in a second. So this is just the basic Instagram screen. I wanted to get you guys accustomed with that. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how to add a photo, because when we add a photo, the rest of it kind of springboards off of that. The way that you add the photo is that there's this blue square right here with this other square little guy in it. That is what you tap on to add the photo. So when you add the photo, you can add it one of three ways. You can either add it from your library, you can add it live, or you can add a video. The way that the first one works is you can see it says gallery, photo, video. The gallery is basically going to pull up a list of all the photos that are in your photo library, and then you can choose from whichever one that you want. The live photo option works just like your camera does for your normal phone, for your normal camera app, is that there will just be a live view of whatever it is that you are looking at, and then there's just going to be a little button down here for you to press and basically take your photograph. There's also a video option that's been released in the past couple years, and the video option kind of works the same way as the live photo does. You just frame your photograph, and then you hold down this button to take your video. And the video can be anywhere from a couple seconds. I think it can go up to 10 seconds is the most that it can do. And it doesn't have to be consecutive. So you could go and film 2 seconds of this going on, and then 3 seconds of this going on, and it'll stitch it all into one video. So it's like in-app editing that it does it for you, and you don't have to worry about that. Either way, either selection you choose from, or either way you input the photo, the next thing you're going to get to is the filter screen. We're going to talk in depth more about filters here in a minute, because I think they're the funnest, most amazingest thing about Instagram. And there's also a culture about them that I think I've always thought is kind of interesting. But, so you're going to choose your filter, and then the next screen you're going to get to is where you're going to share it at. Remember how I was talking about a caption? This is where you're going to enter your caption at. You're going to enter it can be no words, it can be one word, it can be whatever you want to. So you're just going to add that in there, and then you're going to add your hashtags. How hashtags work is that they're basically keywords that can work, they can search and connect to other keywords that other people are using. So for example, when I use this hashtag park hashtag, it is going to group this photo along with all the other photos that have been tagged park on Instagram. So it's a great way for you to connect to photos that have a common theme or a common object. So you would caption your photo, tag it, and then all the rest of these are kind of more options as far as to share it. This is how you share your photos to either Facebook, Tumblr, Flickr, Twitter, or Swarm, whichever you want to. The other really great way to connect is through tagging locations. Like I did tag this one, Anderson, Indiana, which we'll see here in a second. There's a way that I can go and look at all the photos that were tagged in Anderson, Indiana, and then I can interact with them from there. So that's a really great way to, again, get more connectivity. This screen is going to go out to all of your followers, so anybody that follows you is going to have access to this. The other way to do it is to send a direct message. So you can just say, okay, I would just like to send this one to Emma Flynn, and then that photo will go out just to her. So it's like a private messaging via photographs and Instagram. Either way, when you do that, it's going to finish up, it's going to post it, and then your photo will be live on Instagram for people to interact and connect with. So now we're going to talk briefly about our photo menus. This is more about how to connect and how to use Instagram. So here we are again at our home screen. These are the menu bars down here. The little home screen is your home screen. That's going to get you back to your main feed. Then we have the search option. The search option is how you connect and how you get in contact with other people. It's going to have trending topics, and these are just hashtags that are popular right now. Trending topics is a really great way to kind of know what people are talking about so that you can join the conversation, or even just to post photos that you're going to get more likes on, because if it's a trending topic, it's more likely to get more attention. It's also going to be an explore post down here, and these are more posts that Instagram is thinking that you're going to like just based on your like history. So this is the search menu. So up here we have the search, so we can just type in anything we want. We're going to type in dogs because I'm a dog person, and there are 4 different options for how you're going to see your search results. The first one is the top. The top is basically just going to be all the popular dog things. So it's going to be the most popular dog accounts, it's going to be the most popular dog hashtags, and it's just going to give you a list of everything. If you want to refine your search a bit more, you can go into people, and that's going to give you people that you can follow that have actual dog in their name. So say that you wanted to follow somebody that was parks, you could go in and you could search for park, and then I'm sure there's an Instagram account that's just pictures of pretty parks, and then they would just post those all day. Or you can click on tags, and that's where these hashtags come into play. So that if I tag a photo, hashtag dog, all of the dog hashtags are going to appear here. So that if I want to see pictures of other dogs, I just come to these and I go to dogs of Instagram, and then I will just see a feed of all kinds of pictures of dogs, because those are all people that have tagged pictures with that tag on it. So that's a great way to connect and a great way to kind of, see what other people are talking about and what other people are posting. The places one is the most valuable one, I feel like, though, just because when I went and tagged Anderson, Indiana, it was lumped in with all of these other photos that were also tagged in Anderson, Indiana. So it's a great way to connect with people in your neighborhood. It's a great way to connect with people in your town. Because what I did when I first opened our Star Photo account, our Star Photo Instagram, is that I just went into the Anderson, Indiana hashtag where people had tagged in Anderson, Indiana, and I just followed everybody that posted anything about Anderson, because I knew that they were natives, I know they were locals, and I knew that I could I was trying to reach ultimately that audience, which is what we did. And we got quite a few followers out of it too, actually. The next menu down here that we're going to talk about is the notification menu, and that's just kind of what it implies, kind of like how your one on Facebook is. It's just going to tell you when people interact with you and when people have something to do with you. So it could be when they like your photo, when somebody comments on your photo, or when somebody follows you. It just kind of gives you an idea. There's also a way that you can get notifications for your followers. So basically you can see what your followers are doing. I don't use that as much just because I have probably like 90 followers, and I don't want to know when my second cousin, likes a photograph. So the following one, I mean, if you want to know, that's cool too. But the following one kind of gets a little bogged down, but this one for you is definitely, I feel like, kind of important. This is, the last one down here is this little head, and that is your profile. That is basically what people will see when they come and view your profile. These are the tiles, these are the photographs, and then you can have a little profile as well as your profile image. And then these are your post, followers, and following. So that's just kind of like a status and what exactly your Instagram is going to look like. There are 4 different options for viewing in here. The first one is this little tiles, and that's just what it implies. That's seeing your photos as these tiles. The next one is a list form. So it's going to just be kind of like how your home list was, that you can just go through and just see picture after picture after picture, so that somebody, if they come to look at your profile, they could either do the tile list, or they could go in and they could see a larger version of it. And you can view that for yourself, but then if somebody else comes into your profile, they can view that as well. The next option that they have is the photo map, which I think is pretty cool. And basically, remember how we were tagging our photos with our location? It will basically remember that and then give you a list or give you a map of all the places that you've tagged. And I kind of like this just because I like to see where I've been, like globally. And I think this is like a super cool thing. It can get a little creepy though if you don't want Instagram to follow you, but that's part of it, I guess. The next option over there is the photos of you. These are, because in addition to tagging places, you can also tag people. So if someone tags a photograph with you in it, then this shows up on this list so that you can interact with them and then you can know exactly what people are tagging you in. There is a way that you can add an additional account. Like for me personally, I operate my own personal account as well as the Star Photo account. And the way that you would do that is that you just go to, also, this little 3 buttons right here is always going to take you to the settings of your account. So if you want to add an additional account, you just go to the settings, you go all the way down to the bottom, and there's an add account option. So that way you can have 2 accounts going at the same time so that you don't have to log out of one account so that you can log into another. And that's kind of a handy thing, especially if you're operating 2 at a time. Once you have that extra account added, the way that you switch back and forth is that you would go down to your profile, and then you would just switch back and forth depending on which one you want. Okay. And if you guys have any questions, if I'm not explaining anything correctly, just throw something at me or yell something, and I'll figure it out. So now we're going to get into the fun stuff, and this is basically how to make your photos great. We're going to talk about composition, power of the selfie. We're going to talk about filters and kind of something more for business, which is finding a brand and embracing it. So we're going to talk briefly about composition, and composition is kind of what makes your photo great. It's going to elevate it. The first one is get closer. There are a lot of photos that are destroyed simply because people are too far away. Robert Capa, who was a famous photojournalist, said if your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough. So we're going to look at some pictures here that are not close enough. These are our dogs, and we take a lot of pictures of our dogs. So we have this lovely little lady here, and she's standing in this field, and it's a nice photo, it's a nice day, but she's taking up about 10% of the actual frame. So there's a lot of empty space there, there's a lot of stuff that's being missed out. So we're going to move closer, we're going to add another dog, and again, they're taking up a lot of the space, but that's still not a great photograph, so we're going to get closer. So we went to this photograph, it was a nice silhouette, and this one on its own would make a really good Instagram picture. You can see lots of detail here with his little whiskers, and then there's space around here because you can tell it's a bright sunny day, it's a beautiful day, but there's still a lot of background information here that we don't really need. So we're going to go ahead and play around with angles. And angles is a way that you can get closer and you can give people a different perspective. The thing I like about both these photos is that I have the nice clean background of the grass. And that's ultimately what you want. You want something that's easy to read, and you want something that's going to be interesting. And both of these translated into really great Instagram photos that I got a lot of likes and a lot of attention on. And it's basically the same sunny day, the same dogs as these photographs, but just simply by changing my angle and changing where I was pointing my camera, I got these great photographs, and I was super pleased with the way both of these looked. So get closer to your photographs, and it will make the difference.
And that was with your phone?
Yeah, these are all with my phone. So next we're going to talk about the rule of thirds, and that basically is never put your subject in the center. We'll talk about why it's the rule of thirds here in a moment. When you look at a photograph, it's scientifically proven that your eyes are going to travel to certain points of the image. And you want those points of the image to be interesting enough. You want them to be interesting to look at. So this is 2 examples of some photographs that the subject is not in the center. And the way that you check this is basically you draw a tic-tac-toe board over across the image. And even maybe when you guys crop photos, either in your phone or any other photo app that you may have, almost always a tic-tac-toe board like this will appear. And what that is that is the rule of thirds. Whenever you take a photograph, you want interaction either on the lines or at the intersection of the lines, because that's what people are going to be looking for, that's what people are going to be wanting. Which is why I thought this one, even though there's a lot of activity here in the center part, because this building lines up almost perfectly with this line, and we have a lot of interaction right here, I feel like it works pretty well. And then same way with this one, because the action is right here, like right on that line. And then it gets kind of blurry up here, because nobody cares about the screen, but because both this and this were lined up right, I feel like it's a pretty successful image. So that's just an easy way to do it. So just imagine there's a tic-tac-toe board in your photo and line it up accordingly. We're going to talk about keeping it simple. We're going to talk about keeping it clean, just because you don't want to overcomplicate a scene, especially with Instagram, because ultimately these aren't small, but ultimately they are kind of small scenes that you don't want a lot of things going on in. So with this one, for example, I just moved to Anderson. I live in Hudson House, so I'm taking lots of pictures of my new pretty apartment. So basically we have just these little shelves, and there's a lot going on these tiny little shelves, but then they have this nice clean background, because ultimately this is what the focus of the photo is. So that's what we want the attention on. We don't want a lot of extra things. Same thing with sky photos. Sky photos for me, let the sky be the sky. We do have some trees here, but it's spring. We're supposed to take pictures of trees. But I think these are just really 2 simple, clean images that I think kind of worked well. So keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate things. The next one is play with empty space. A lot of people worry about leaving part of your photo blank because they feel like they have to fill everything. But that's not at all the case. You can absolutely just leave things blank. You don't have to fill in things. And especially, again, with sky, I feel like sky is really nice, especially when you're showing off architectural details, that it's good to leave those blank, because ultimately it's going to showcase what you're trying to showcase and not necessarily what you don't want to showcase. Same thing with the dogs that we talked about, how we held all that negative space of grass around them. I feel like that was another example of playing with negative space. It's allowing parts of the pictures to be empty, because even though parts of the pictures are empty, they can still tell a story. Like this was my apartment before I moved in. So I have like my little things everywhere, but there's still like a sense of emptiness and there's a sense of vacancy, which is what I really liked about it, because it definitely showed a progress of moving in or moving out. So even though there's nothing there, even though all of this space is empty, it still tells a story. It's still part of the image. And I know that the last one is, all these rules are meant to be broken. I know that it can kind of seem counterintuitive. I told you guys to not put anything in the center. Then right before that, I showed you a picture of a giant dog head in the center of a screen. So all these rules, they're not necessarily rules, but more guidelines on how to make a good image. And so all of them can be broken. All of them can be played with. These are just kind of guidelines to get you started. But ultimately, you're the one that's going to decide whether or not you like the photo, because you're only going to take photos that you like, and you're only going to take photos that you want to look at. So keep that in mind in the end, but these are just helpful suggestions on how to make a good photograph. Next, we're going to talk about selfies. Selfies kind of have had a bad reputation recently. Hang on a second. Selfies have had a bad reputation as being simply for teenage girls. I super hard trying to like break that stereotype, because selfies are a great storytelling tool. Generations before, our parents and our grandparents would go on vacation and they would send a postcard back home to prove that they were there. Now we take selfies to prove that we were someplace. So I think that it's really important to use them and to use them well. We got a selfie stick at work, which I will talk about because I'm in love with the selfie stick. And this is a photograph that I took, and I love the visual angle of this selfie stick. And I love that it's storytelling. You got me, you got my work. This is our photo, by the way. And I just think that it's such a great tool, and it's underutilized, and I wish more people could kind of go in there and use selfies, because it's a unique perspective, and you can show your customers, you can show your followers what exactly your life looks like through your own perspective and through your own eyes through the selfie stick, and I think it's just brilliant. There was an artist recently who she was a stay-at-home mother in Russia. She's also a photography student. And she was getting complaints from her friends that, oh, well, you don't really do anything, you just stay home with the baby all day. So she took a selfie stick and she documented her day to show her friends what it was like for her being a stay-at-home mom. And the images that resulted from this were some of the coolest images I've ever seen before. And these were taken with a phone and a selfie stick and just a little bit of creativity. I like this baby's face right here. I think that's like my favorite part of it. But it was just, it's a super simple thing, and these, like I said, these were done with a phone and a selfie stick. So don't shy away from selfies, because they can be used, I mean, these totally tell a story, and they can be used as great storytelling tools. So don't be afraid of the selfie, is the moral of my story. Next, we're going to talk about filters. And filters, like I said, that's the funnest thing about Instagram. This is kind of my example or my reasoning why I think that they are, is that I was at church, and we have these string lights hanging up right here, and I love the way that these lines interacted with each other, and I wanted to take a picture of it. So I took this picture, and I was super disappointed when I looked on my phone and saw this, because it was super dull, the colors were not great, I got people's heads down here, there's a light stand, it was not a good deal. But then just by using filters that came with Instagram, totally 100% with Instagram, my photo went from this to this, which is way better than I even saw it through my own eyes. So this is just an example of kind of the power of Instagram and how far you can take your photos and how nice you can make them look. So this is Shoko, he is our lab dog. So if you do come into Star Photo, you will meet Shoko. He has treats, he's always willing to greet people. So when you go in and you select a photograph, you will just select whichever photo you want, and then you are taken to the filter screen. Now there's this whole kind of culture around filters. People have inside jokes about which ones they suck and which ones are great, and it's kind of interesting to see what people like and what people don't like. Everybody has their favorites, and I'm sure as you guys start using Instagram, or if you guys are using Instagram, you're going to have your favorites as well, I guarantee it. There are mostly color ones, some black and white ones, and I will admit that even though I do have favorites, every time I post a photo on Instagram, I still go through every single filter to see which one is going to play the best with my individual photograph. So once you have your filter selected, there are, as you can see here, there are 3 menus. This is the circle with the little hashes in them. This is the main filter screen. And a lot of people will just select a filter and move on to the next step. I kind of like to tool around with it a little bit more just because I feel like it's really going to enhance the photo. The next option, the next tool is the Lux filter. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't entirely know what this filter does. Like, I looked it up, I tried to figure it out, I tried to understand it. I still don't understand it. But the best I can understand, it's a solarization filter. And what that means, it's basically going to make your colors richer, and it's going to make your colors stand out a bit more. So that's as best as I can figure out what it is. I usually don't use this one, but sometimes for some photos, it will come out good and they will come out useful. My favorite tab, though, of all these is this one with this little screw. And there's about 10 different options or 10 different editing tools that you can use within this single menu. We're only going to talk about 3 of them, but I definitely encourage you guys to go in and try more if you really like this and if you really like the way that these are. The first one we're going to talk about is brightness, and brightness is basically what it implies. It's how bright or how not bright a photograph is. So here we have Shoko, and Shoko is a black dog anyway, so he's got a lot He doesn't have a lot of highlights in his face, but he has enough in this photograph, I feel like, to show what we're talking about. So the brightness on this photo is way down, and as you can tell, the photo is just darker, it's dimmer. But then the brightness over here is way up, and as you can tell, he's much lighter. So the brightness, like I said, just basically determines how bright or how not bright a photograph is. The next one is contrast. And contrast is the relationships between the darks in the photos and the lights. It's the contrast between the pure whites and the pure blacks. So as we can see here, we have the contrast turned all the way down, and there's very few true blacks and very few true whites, and then everything else is just kind of muddy, for lack of a better term. But then as we turn up this contrast over here, we can see that it kind of looks comic booky. It's like almost everything is either really black or really white. And if you were going to take away one thing from my speech today, fix your contrast on black and white photos. I saw them when I was a student, I saw them when I was an editor, I see them all the time when I'm at Star Photo, is that people will come in with black and white photos that have little to no contrast. And it's painful, because if you have little to no contrast on a black and white photo, it's basically going to look like a muddy black and white photo. And the great thing about black and white is you can get your black blacks and your white whites, and then those interact with each other. So if there's one thing you're going to take away from this, if you're going to post a black and white photo, for the love of God, please fix your contrast. It was another thing that I would see these photos and I'm like, fix it. All right. So the other one that's kind of fun is the saturation. Saturation is the relationship with colors. So it's how many colors are allowed in the image. So here we have the saturation turned all the way down, and as you can see, it's a black and white image because there's no color in it. And then on this one, we have the saturation turned all the way up. So it's going to make those colors richer, it's going to make those colors pop, it's going to make those colors more colorful. So saturation is definitely another one that I like playing with saturation just because sometimes I like my colors to really pop, and this is a good way to achieve that. That's a blank screen I forgot to take out. Next we're going to talk about, this is something that's kind of really good for business, and that is having a brand. And you can even have a brand as an individual account, but as a business account, having a brand is very important. So we're going to talk about celebrating your brand, and a tip that I kind of like is to find something no one else is doing and do it, because ultimately that's going to get you noticed. I will also say that these the first two accounts we're going to talk about, they are actual businesses, and they have a professional photographer and a creative team behind them, and a lot goes into these Instagram pictures. So these are the ones that I don't want you guys to look at and say, oh, my photos are never going to be that good. Of course they're never going to be that good because this is, this is a different league. They just upload these. The first one is, it's a shoe brand, and they have one product, and that is high-end leather ballet flats. And I feel like they do a really great job of just owning their brand because they know what they have. They sell these things in about 80 colors. They know what they have, and they do a really good job of showcasing that. I'm a big shoe person, so I may be a little biased when I say this, but when I look at these photos, and I just want one of every color. Like, they look like candy to me, and I know a lot of people feel the same way, and that's exactly what they're going for in their ads and in their Instagram pictures, is that they want these to look like just beautiful accessories that you need 80 of. And it works for me. I don't know about other people, but it works for me. And even if you have more than, so it can be kind of difficult when you just have the one product to try to make that work as far as, an entire ad campaign. But this is just a company that I think does a really good job of it. Another company that does a great job of broadcasting kind of what they have is Staples. Now, of course, you always want to buy local, but that doesn't mean that we can't steal some tricks from the big boys. And I really like how they're advertising office supplies, which you wouldn't think would be very able to be creative and cool, but they do a really good job at showcasing these in several ways. Like, they have a little DIY up here, then they have a setup for an office. And I think that it's just super visually interesting, and I think that that's a lot of fun. Another one is that we hear all the time about internet celebrities, because internet celebrities are a thing. And Instagram celebrities are also a thing. This is an Instagram celebrity. This is Marine the dog. And Marine the dog is just a Shih Tzu living in New York City, and the entire Instagram account is just her normal everyday adventures. So their brand is this dog, which may not sound like an actual brand, but it absolutely is. It's enough of a brand that she's in this silly looking dog is now an actual celebrity. So again, it kind of is like find something, you're going to find a niche, you're going to find a shtick, you're going to find something that is yours, and then you're going to make it your own. Another company that's really doing it really well is the Instagram account Fashion Dads. And what they are is that it's entirely user-generated content that people will just submit photographs of their dads in clothing that are very dad-like. And then the people who run the account, they just monitor it. So all of this stuff is user-generated, which is actually a really good idea for businesses because you can have your own customers maybe interacting with your products or interacting with your services. And then that could be all that you post on your Instagram. It's just other people's photographs of whatever it is that you're doing or whatever it is that you're offering. And then that way, it's also a great way to generate interest with your Instagram because people are going to want to help you. They're going to want to see their photographs on a big Instagram like that. I also really like this because it's dad clothes. So when I found this Instagram account, I was like, I have to figure out a way to work this in. And I feel like I did a pretty good job. All right, so now we're going to kind of talk about, this is kind of the last downplay. We're going to talk about kind of the next steps and where to kind of take your photos from here. We're going to talk about other apps, using what you already have, accessories, and then bringing your photos to life. So the first app that we're going to talk about is Layout. It is made by Instagram. It is free. It is simple and easy to use. And it basically creates collages, very simply. How it'll work is that it'll pull up with the gallery of all your photographs, and then you just go in and select the photographs that you want. And then up from here, you can choose, because there are different layouts, like we have one here that's stacked on top, and then we have others that are kind of stacked vertically. Once you select your photos and move on to the next one, there's more options with borders. You can slide this back and forth to create either different sizes of your photographs, which is kind of handy. And then the other really nice thing about Layout and all these Instagram suite apps is that they go directly either into Instagram or Facebook. A lot of apps you have to navigate out of them, then go into Instagram and add it you have to go and find it on your phone and add it in. These are really great because with one click you can drag it right into Instagram and you don't have to go chasing your app all over your phone. And then you get a really cool, this is my little sister in her birthday party. We took her to Build-A-Bear. But the other really great thing about this is that it really leaves you room for creativity. This border here can be turned off and it can create some pretty incredible results. So this is the star photo corner. This is the corner of 9th and Main. I just went out, beautiful sunny day, I went out and took 2 photos. And then with the Layout app, I created this super cool Inception-like photo, which I just thought, I was so tickled with myself when I got this photograph because it was just awesome. And this was all done in phone with apps, with Layout and then another app that I had to go in and play with the colors a bit. So this was done entirely in phone. So it's definitely possible to create really cool, really unique products. The next app we're going to talk about is Boomerang. And Boomerang is also from Instagram. It's free. It's easy to use. And it makes basically a repeating GIF or a repeating video from a video that you take. How it works is that it kind of works just like your normal camera, the Instagram camera. You line it up, and then you line up the photo. This is, again, Shoko. This is our other employee, Erin, giving Shoko a treat. So you would just hold this down, and it's going to capture whatever it is. It's going to load, and then, again, when it gets done, it's going to allow you to just go into Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. But I got to go over here because I got to start it. But this is the way that this app looks. So you can have Shoko here dancing. I've seen a lot of really great creative uses with it. A model that I follow had done like a hair flip. So she was just like eternally flipping her hair because of Boomerang. I just thought it was just the neatest thing. The next one I don't actually have on my computer because I'm on Android only. So this next one's Hyperlapse. It's in beta right now. It's a new one from Instagram, and it basically was made to create time lapses from normal videos. And it is in beta right now, so it is only for iOS, but it's pretty basic because you would it's just one of those things that you just hold down this and you can record a video as long as you want or as short as you want. And then, let me find it real quick. Then it basically is going to create a time lapse of whatever you do. This is my daily commute, so I wanted to take a picture of it. And it makes some really cool results. So if you do like time lapses and you do want to play around with them, I would definitely recommend doing this. Like I said, it's only available for iOS, so iPhone or iPad or iPod only now, but eventually, hopefully, it should be for Android as well. That's kind of a little fun thing to play with. The next one we're going to talk about is the only one that is not part of the Instagram suite. It is Photoshop Express. It's free, and it gives you many more photo editing options. Photoshop Express is kind of like when we went into Instagram and we had all those filter options where you could increase and decrease things. Photoshop Express is that, just a lot more of it. So if you did like those, I would definitely recommend downloading this app, because there's filters, kind of like how there was with Instagram, but then there's frames, and you can go and you can heal your tools, or you can heal photos, like say that you have a beautiful sky and there's a stupid little bird in the corner. Like, you can go out and you can remove that bird. That's what kind of this Photoshop Express does. Also, you can say that you photoshopped your photos and it wouldn't be a lie, which is a great thing. Because if you actually buy the real Photoshop, that's a couple $100. But this one's actually free, and you still get a lot of the same functionality on your phone, which is pretty cool. The next thing we'll talk about is using kind of what you already have. So even if you don't download any apps, even if you don't even want to use Instagram, you still have a lot of tools that can be used on your phone. There's a lot of different photo editing options, and there's a lot of different tools that are pretty cool. Again, I have an Android, so Android software is weird because it's going to vary from phone to phone, but iOS is just iOS. So every iPhone in the world has more or less the same software, but with Androids, it gets confusing. So this is my software, but yours is, of course, going to look different. This was not taken with a phone, so don't be alarmed. I just wanted to tell you guys. This is the cake topper at my graduation party. Got little cardinals. Super cute. Anyways, there's just more options here. There's options for filters. You can add frames. You can crop. And then we still have those. You can go in and add it, shadows, highlights, contrast, stuff like that. And again, this is all included on my phone. The next thing that I think is a really great tool for your phone photography is HDR. HDR, it's what stands for high dynamic range. It's confusing, I apologize, I'm gonna try my best. So when a photograph is taken via your phone or via your DSLR or via a video camera, wherever it's taken with, how it works is that light is collected and put on the sensor of your phone or your camera. How much light is collected is called the exposure. The exposure is things like shutter speed, it's the aperture, it's a lot of different things, but it's just basically how much light is allowed in. And how exposure will work is that it will expose it for whatever area of the photo you want it to. With the phone, it can be hard to control what area of the photo you want exposed. So this was me walking out of my building one day. So we have this beautiful bright sky, but then all of this was in shadow. So the camera exposed for the bright sky, which is why the bright sky looks good. So with HDR, what it does is that instead of exposing for one area of the photograph, it will expose for all areas of the photograph. So you will have the bright sky showed up, the midtones of the balcony, and then the darkness of this brick wall will all be exposed correctly and will all be stitched together into one photograph. So if you're in an area that has high shadows, HDR might be good to look into, just because you're going to get more of your image in focus and more of your image working. I will warn you though, sometimes HDR gets a little weird, especially if you're taking photographs of skies. This one's okay, but I've taken some HDR photographs of skies and it looks like the sky is falling. Like, it's just really weird colors. It's like the end of days type thing. I like HDR. I usually have it turned on just because I more often than not, I like the results from it. And again, this is included in your phone. Accessories. This is where things get fun because I'm a girl. I like to accessorize. The first one is lenses. You can get a lot of different lenses for phones nowadays. They're readily available. You can get them anywhere. I think most of these came from online, but there are a lot of options. This one, for example, it's a two-sided lens. So I think one of these is a macro and the other is a fisheye. And what the difference is that a macro can basically, it's like you can get super close-up images of whatever it is that you're doing. And then a fisheye, that if you ever see weird movies or weird pictures where it looks like you're inside of a fishbowl, that's what a fisheye is, because it allows you to get like wide angles versus small angles. And this just clips onto the side of your phone, and you can flip it from side to side depending on which lens that you want. This is also a telephoto lens. Do you know how many millimeters this is? I do not. Okay, but when I was at Ball State, I did a lot of football games, and I would be sitting there with 600 millimeter lenses, which are about this long, and I had to have like a stick to like hold them on because I couldn't hold them up. This isn't quite like that, but this is still pretty good. So if you want action stuff, and if you want things like that, and if you want to feel super cool with your long lens, this is the thing to go for. It comes with a special case that you have to put on your phone because you have to screw it in. And it also comes with a little baby tripod like this, so that the tripod can sit on, so that you can sit it, and then you don't have to worry about necessarily like holding it, because something like that can get heavy. Another really cool thing is, they're called gorilla tripods or grip tripods. And how it works is that these tentacles are completely and totally flexible. So say that I wanted to attach this to the edge of the table to film something that was going on right there, I can do that. And then I would just simply attach my phone onto this, and then it's able to record, and then I can set that there and let it go. They do get kind of expensive. I kind of got this one for a deal, but I think like if you want a really good one, you're looking at like $25, $30. The lenses, you can get those for super cheap, or you can go all the way up to a couple $100s. If you're looking to spend money into the whole iPhone photography thing or the camera photography, I would highly recommend doing in the accessories instead of the apps, because I feel like with apps, you can get a lot of good stuff for very little money. So if you're going to spend $20, I'd rather you buy a nice grip tripod, or I'd rather you buy a selfie stick than, you know, go out and spend $15, $20 in apps, because the apps, I feel like it isn't worth it. The other accessory, this is, say that you have DSLR, you have a digital camera set up already. Normally when you buy a tripod, like either one of these, it comes with a tripod mount. So if I was supposed to bring it, there was one thing I forgot this morning, and that was it. That if you wanted to set this on like a normal tripod, you would just slide your phone in here and then set it on there. Then this is an extended battery pack, so like if you're going hiking or camping or something and you know that you're going to be taking a lot of pictures, this might also be a good to have. This is a battery pack, so you would just slide your phone in here, and it adds a certain level of extra battery life to you. So now we're going to talk about my favorite iPhone accessory, and that is the selfie stick. The selfie stick, I forgot my thing. They're super handy because I love, how they work is that you would simply put your phone in a little cradle, and then you would plug this, and all of them are more or less like this. You would plug your little cord into the headphone jack, so then you would, do whatever you want to, and then there'll be a little button down here that you'll press, and then it'll take the photograph of you or of whatever via the little button, and that's how those work. And I feel like the business uses, I think, are really cool. Like the other day, I just did let me turn the sound down. I just went and I did a tour of Star Photo via, oh God, go away. Okay, I just did a tour of Star Photo with my selfie stick, and it was kind of a really cool, why aren't you working? There we go. All right, so we got it. So we did this tour of Star Photo with the selfie stick. And I think it was a super cool perspective and a super cool way to kind of show what exactly we had and what exactly we did. So I used to poo-poo these. I used to make fun of all the teenagers that had one. And then I got one, and I was like, this is brilliant. So get a selfie stick. They're super fun. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is that we at Star Photo are going to be doing our first ever Insta Walk. The Insta Walk basically is going to be an event that is going to encourage locals to get out, explore Anderson, and to take photographs of what's already available to them. We're going to possibly do more than one of these with different themes each time. The first one is going to be the arts and culture destinations. So we're in contact with a few different organizations from around Anderson, and if you would like to be part of this, definitely please contact us, and we'd love to work with you. So this is just the first one, and if you guys are interested, I would love to have you there. And I think that's it. So thank you guys again for coming today. I hope I've been entertaining.